Okay, so this video is going to be about creating an eye within Maya without using any file textures. It'll just be all Maya nodes. And this won't give you a perfectly realistic eye, but it is a way to create an eye that is very clean and very easy to manage. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make a polysphere. You can work with NURBS if you want, but I tend to find that polyspheres are just as good because you can use a smooth preview on them if you want. So you're going to want to rotate this so it's facing forward because this pole will define where the pupil is going to be. And we're going to actually make three parts of the eye. This is going to be the cornea, which is the transparent part of your eye. And let's assign that a Phong. I'm going to use all standard Maya materials, but if you're using Mental Ray, you can use those materials, or if you're using V-Ray or something else, you can use those materials. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to be using Maya materials. So let's assign this a Phong and name this cornea mat. And for this, the color will set to white. It doesn't really matter. But transparency, you want mostly transparent. Can turn the diffuse way down. And the cosine power, this is an important part. You want to put this at about 200. You can go 300 if you want. It's really up to you. And reflectivity is up to you as well, but I'll set pretty low. Okay. And now we can shape this a little bit. The cornea actually juts out a little bit. So we can do something like this and maybe scale it a little bit. It has this little hump right here. Okay. So there's our cornea. The next thing we want to make is the iris. So let's create another sphere. And again, we want to rotate so the pole's facing forward. And you want to just scale it down a little bit so it's inside of the cornea. And sometimes it's easier to work with a wireframe unshaded. So that looks pretty good. So let's isolate select this now. Delete history and freeze transforms. And I'm just going to name it Geo Iris 1. Okay. And the iris is kind of like the opposite of the cornea in terms of shape. This part right here actually goes inward, so you can kind of just scale it in Z to get a little bit of shape like that, and then pull it back a little bit. And I'm going to even move this pull back so we have room for the pupil. Okay, so now let's work on the shader for this. It's a little bit more complicated. And another thing is, if this edge is a little bit too harsh for you, you can always add another edge loop, which might be a good idea, and then scale it up a little bit. And then they'll hold the shape a little bit better when you turn on smooth too. Okay. So you can do two things. You can either assign this a Phong or a Lambert. I kind of like how Lambert looks, but that's really up to you. So I'm going to assign it a Lambert and name this iris mat. And let's assign a ramp to the color. Okay. And we can kind of see how this ramp is working now. we have the blue up front where the pupil should be, and the green is kind of towards the middle, and the red's in the back. So we want this blue node to actually be black for the pupil. And this middle node will be whatever color we want the iris to be. And we actually want to duplicate this, so just click anywhere on this color bar and that'll create another node. And this node back here we want to be white. And you just have to kind of move these in order to get them in place. So that's about good for the pupil. And again, I'm not making it harsh because we are going to have another piece of geometry for the pupil. And you'll see why I'm making this channel as we go on. And then I'll bring in this white node, or white channel to define the iris. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And to make this even more realistic, what we can do is assign another texture to this channel. So I'm selecting the first channel after the pupil. And I'm going to click on this checker box next to selected color. And I'm just going to assign a fractal. Okay, and we can play with these colors down here in the color balance section. Color gain and color offset are the two colors that you want to worry about. So maybe we want the color gain to be this green color. And we just want this color offset to be a darker green color. So we get something like this. And now we probably want to go ahead and change the second node. On the outer rim of your iris, it actually gets a little bit darker, so it's a good idea to assign it a darker color like that. So that's looking pretty good. We'll call that good for now. And I'm just going to go ahead and rename everything real quick. This is an iris color ramp, and this is iris color fractal. Just keep everything clean, and these placement 2D nodes are useless for us right now, so I'm just going to delete them. Okay, so let's create another polysphere for the pupil. And we can rotate that again and scale down. So that's about good. So let's delete history and freeze transforms and isolate selected. And you can just assign this a surface shader and call it good. So I'll name this pupil matte. And if you don't want it completely black, you can line it up a little tiny bit like that. Okay, so we have an eye here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to outliner. And I'm going to parent the, well, I should name the pupil first, Geo Pupil 1. I'm going to parent the pupil to the iris and the iris to the cornea. You can just group these if you want, doesn't really matter. So this is our eye with these three pieces of geometry. And the cool thing about this is that you can now dilate the eyes by attaching a controller to the pupil scale or translate, wherever you prefer. If you scaled up, you'll get this effect. You'll probably also want to connect the black and green channel. If you connect the black and green channel to that controller, it will look very cool, because it'll look like an eye actually dilating instead of just like this geometry moving. Okay, so let's set up some shading and see what we get. So I'm going to turn on smooth for this. I don't know what's going on here. There's like a little bump, but I'm not too worried about it. So I'm just going to create a point light. And quadratic, I like using quadratic fall off. We can give it intensity, something like this. Okay. And let's make a camera. It's usually good practice just throw a camera on your scene so you don't have to rely on your perspective camera. Resolution gate. I'm just going to turn on 1K square. And let's see what kind of renders we get. Let's do mental ray, so it renders smooth shading. So this is just a very simple lighting setup. Simple geometry, very simple geometry, simple shaders, no files to worry about. And you can tweak this however you want now. Like, I think that the pupil should be completely black. That looks a little bit better. And also this fall off is a little bit weird on the outside of the iris, so maybe I'll come in and change that. You can always change the interpolation type. Exponential down works pretty good. Let's try exponential up. That's looking pretty good. But yeah, you can play with all these interpolations and see what you like. And also you can incorporate a little bit of redness into your eye if you want. And that would be by going to the iris shader and adding another channel back here. And the way I do this is by plugging in another fractal. So I can call this iris color fractal 2. And then this will just be red. Not so intense though. Maybe more of a pinkish would be good. Okay. And then we'll probably want to pull this back a little bit. And that doesn't really look realistic, but when you only have like the corner of the eye showing this red, it just gives a little bit of that realistic blood to your eye, the blood color. So again, there's nothing special going on with this. It's just a very quick way to set up an eye and to get some pretty good results. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for my next tutorial.